Some revenge doesn't require guns or knives, just silence, patience, and a plan executed with surgical precision. On Monday morning, I was thrown out of that office like worthless trash, humiliated in front of everyone who'd once respected me. By Friday afternoon, the CEO's only son was trudging out those same glass doors, cardboard box in hand, his privileged world crumbling around him. He didn't know it yet, but every step of his downfall had been orchestrated by the woman they'd so carelessly discarded. This is how I brought an empire's prince to his knees in 5 days. My name is Claire Donovan. And until that Monday morning, I'd spent 3 years building my career at Nixora Systems, one of Ridgeport's most prestigious tech companies, 32 years old, single, and fiercely independent. I'd poured everything into my role as senior communications specialist. Every press release, every crisis managed, every successful product launch, they all had my fingerprints on them. The morning started like any other. I grabbed my usual vanilla latte from the lobby cafe, exchanged pleasantries with Marcus at security, and took the elevator to the 14th floor. The familiar hum of keyboards and muted phone conversations greeted me as I walked past the rows of glass-walled offices. My desk sat in the open floor plan, strategically positioned where I could see both the conference rooms and my boss's corner office. Ethan Hale. Even thinking his name now makes my jaw clench. 6 feet of calculated coldness wrapped in expensive suits. He'd been my direct supervisor for 18 months. The man ruled our department with spreadsheets and KPIs, treating human beings like data points on his precious performance metrics. He had this way of looking at you over his rimless glasses that made you feel like you were perpetually failing some invisible test. Donovan, my office. Now. His voice cut through the morning calm like a blade. No good morning, no please. Just that commanding tone that suggested the world should stop spinning, because Ethan Hale had something to say. I saved the media report I'd been working on and followed him, noticing how conversations died as I passed. That should have been my first warning. Sarah from accounting wouldn't meet my eyes. Tom from IT suddenly became fascinated with his monitor. Ethan's office smelled like leather, and his pretentious cologne, something European he'd mentioned, cost more than most people's car payments. He didn't sit. Neither did I. There's no easy way to say this, he began, though the slight upturn at the corner of his mouth suggested he was enjoying this plenty. We're letting you go, effective immediately. The words hit me like ice water. I'm sorry. What? The Preston Industries press release. You sent it out with critical errors. Stock prices fluctuated. The board is furious. He slid a termination letter across his mahogany desk. Security will escort you out once you've cleared your desk. Wait, that release was approved by... The decision is final. He was already turning to his computer, dismissing me like I was nothing more than a spam email. The Preston Industries release. I'd sent it Friday afternoon, after getting explicit approval from Ethan himself. I had the email chain to prove it, but looking at his smug expression, I realized none of that mattered. This wasn't about a press release. This was about the fact that I'd questioned his strategy in last week's meeting, in front of the regional director. This was about my refusal to stay late rewriting his reports while he took credit. This was about power, pure and simple. The walk back to my desk felt like a funeral procession. My colleagues kept their heads down, afraid that making eye contact might make them guilty by association. Only Amy, the intern I'd been mentoring, looked up with tears in her eyes. I wanted to tell her it would be okay, but my throat had closed up entirely. Security gave me 15 minutes. 15 minutes to pack 3 years of my life into a cardboard box. My awards. My coffee mug with the motivational quote I'd stopped reading months ago. The stress ball shaped like a brain that Amy had given me last Christmas. My hands shook as I deleted personal files from my computer. Years of work vanishing with each click. Paul from security, a kind man who'd always asked about my weekend plans, looked apologetic as he escorted me to the elevator. I'm sorry, Claire, he whispered. This isn't right. The elevator descended in silence, each floor marking another step away from everything I'd built. When the doors opened to the lobby, I saw them, my former colleagues, pressed against the 14th floor windows, watching my walk of shame like it was some sort of corporate entertainment. Outside, the October air bit at my cheeks. I stood on the sidewalk, holding my pathetic box of belongings, watching through the glass doors as life inside Nexora continued without me. 9:23 on a Monday morning, and my career had just imploded. But as I stood there, humiliation burning in my chest, something else began to take root. Something darker, more focused. Ethan Hale had just made a critical error in his precious calculations. He'd assumed I would simply disappear. Another casualty of corporate politics. He was wrong. The apartment felt smaller when I returned at 10 in the morning on a Monday. Sunlight streamed through windows I usually only saw darkened, illuminating dust motes floating in the air like tiny witnesses to my failure. I set the box on my kitchen counter and stared at it, 3 years reduced to cardboard and packing tape. My laptop sat open on the coffee table, the browser still displaying my bank account from last night's anxious checking, $2,847. That would cover next month's rent, but November was already looming. The credit card statements piled on my desk told their own story, $500 in debt from when I'd furnished this place, believing I'd finally made it. The minimum payments alone ate up $400 a month. I poured myself a glass of wine, yes, at 10:30 in the morning. Judge me, and sank into my couch. The silence was deafening. No pinging emails, no Teams messages, no calendar reminders for meetings I'd never attend. Just me and the weight of what had just happened. My phone buzzed. Mom. Hi, honey. Just calling to see how that big presentation went. I've been telling everyone at book club about my daughter, the communications director at that fancy tech company. Communications director. She always promoted me in her stories, adding titles I hadn't earned yet. The pride in her voice made my chest ache. It went fine, Mom. Actually, I'm taking a little break from work. The lie came easily, too easily. Oh, that's wonderful. You work too hard, just like I did at your age. Just like she did. The parallel hit me like a physical blow. I was 7 when Mom lost her job at Hartman & Associates. She'd been an office manager, proud of her little cubicle with the picture of me in my school uniform. I remembered sitting in the lobby after school, watching her work through the glass partition, feeling important because my mom had such an important job. Then Richard Hartman decided she wasn't young enough, pretty enough, compliant enough. The official reason was restructuring. But I was old enough to understand the real story from the hushed phone calls and tears she thought I couldn't hear. She'd refused his advances at the company Christmas party. By January, she was gone. We lost the apartment 6 months later, moved in with Grandma, where Mom slept on the couch so I could have the spare bedroom. She never worked in an office again, took retail jobs, night shifts at the hospital cafeteria. Anything that would pay the bills without requiring references from Richard Hartman. I watched her shrink, year by year. Watched her apologize for taking up space in the world. Watched her accept less than she deserved because she'd been taught that fighting back meant losing everything. Claire, are you there? Sorry, Mom, I'm here. You sound tired. Are you taking care of yourself? Taking care of myself. She'd asked me that same question through college, through my first job, through every challenge, always worried about me because she'd learned the hard way what happened to women who couldn't take care of themselves in a world designed to break them. I'm fine, Mom, I promise. After I hung up, I sat in the gathering darkness of my apartment, not bothering to turn on the lights. The wine bottle emptied slowly as memories surfaced. Mom's face when she had to tell me we were moving. Her forced smile at Grandma's house, the way she'd started dyeing her hair because gray made her look unemployable. I pulled my laptop closer and opened a new document. At the top, I typed, "They will not break me." Underneath, I began a list. Savings $2, $847 time until financial crisis, 6 to 8 weeks. Assets, my brain, my skills, my anger. Ethan Hale's weaknesses, arrogance, taking credit for others' work. His assumption that I'll disappear quietly. I stared at that last line for a long moment, then added, Nixora Systems' weakness. Every company had one. Every fortress had a crack in its foundation. I just had to find it. My phone lit up with LinkedIn notifications, former colleagues viewing my profile, probably checking if I'd updated it to seeking opportunities. The vultures were already circling, eager for gossip about my downfall. But one name made me pause: Jessica Park, a former Nexora employee who'd left abruptly 6 months ago. Her message was simple. Heard what happened. If you want to talk, I'm buying the coffee. I almost deleted it. But something in those words, heard what happened, not sorry for your loss or everything happens for a reason, made me reconsider. Jessica knew something, and right now, information was the only currency I had left. Looking at my mother's picture on the mantle, the one from before Hartman and Associates, when she still stood tall, I made a decision. I wouldn't shrink. I wouldn't apologize for existing. I wouldn't accept the narrative that Ethan Hale and Nixora Systems had written for me. They'd taken my job, but they'd awakened something far more dangerous, a woman with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The city lights began to flicker on outside my window, Ridgeport transforming into its nighttime version. Somewhere out there, Ethan was probably having his post-work scotch, congratulating himself on eliminating a problem. Somewhere, the executives at Nixora were sleeping soundly in their suburban mansions. Let them sleep. I had work to do. Jessica Park looked different from her Nixora days. Gone was the corporate armor of blazers and pencil skirts, replaced by jeans and a Columbia University sweatshirt. We met at a small cafe in the Arts District, far from Ridgeport's financial center where we might run into former colleagues. You lasted longer than I thought you would, she said, sliding a latte across the table to me. I had you pegged for another 6 months before Ethan found an excuse. You knew he would, Claire. Ethan Hale has eliminated every competent woman in that department over the past 2 years. You were just the latest. She pulled out her phone, showing me a group photo from the company picnic 2 years ago. See any of these faces still around? She was right. Maria, gone. Stephanie, terminated. Rachel, encouraged to pursue other opportunities. All of them had been good at their jobs. Too good. Perhaps. But that's not why I wanted to meet, Jessica continued, lowering her voice. Have you heard about the CEO's son, Ryan Callahan? I knew the name but had never connected it to any face at Nixora. What about him? He started 3 weeks ago. Strategic Development Division, Senior Analyst position. Jessica's laugh was bitter. The kid failed out of Wharton, spent 2 years finding himself in Europe on daddy's dime. And now suddenly he's analyzing market strategies for a Fortune 500 company. Nepotism isn't exactly shocking in corporate America. No, but Ryan is. She leaned closer. My friend still works in HR. Ryan's already had 2 complaints filed against him, inappropriate comments to female employees. Both complaints mysteriously disappeared. Daddy's protection only goes so far. Though, my pulse quickened. What do you mean? The kid's a walking liability, parties every weekend, posts everything on Instagram like he's some kind of influencer. Last week, he was bragging at a bar about having access to Nixora's acquisition plans. My friend was there, recorded the whole thing on her phone. She showed me an Instagram profile where Ryan calls. The shots. Subtle. The feed was a parade of excess bottle service at exclusive clubs, yacht parties, gym selfies with captions about grinding when he clearly meant the cocaine barely hidden in the background of one photo. Why hasn't anyone reported this? Jessica gave me a look that said I should know better. To whom HR reports to the CEO, the board is full of his golf buddies. But, she paused, stirring her coffee thoughtfully. The SEC doesn't care about golf buddies, neither does the media. A plan began forming in my mind, hazy but taking shape. Your friend with the recording, would she share it? She might, if someone knew what to do with it. Jessica studied my face. You're thinking about something. I can see those wheels turning. I'm thinking that every kingdom has a weak prince. Over the next 3 days, I became a digital archaeologist, excavating Ryan Callahan's online presence. The boy and he was a boy. 25 years old with the impulse control of a teenager had documented his entire life for public consumption. There he was at a New Year's party, clearly intoxicated, making a mock Asian accent while talking about those Chinese companies we're buying. There he was at a charity gala, his hand too low on a waitress's back, her face frozen in uncomfortable professionalism. There he was just last Thursday, at a bar called The Vault, loudly explaining to a group of women how Nexora was about to destroy the competition with our Q4 surprise. I took screenshots of everything, building a digital dossier, but the real gold came from LinkedIn. Ryan had connected with dozens of Nexora employees, probably forced connections given his father's position. Through those connections, I could see the company's structure, the real power players, the pressure points. That's when I founded a post from David Brenner, head of internal audit, about the importance of maintaining SOX compliance in family-owned corporations. Sarbanes-Oxley Act. The legislation passed after Enron to prevent corporate fraud, with specific provisions about nepotism and disclosure. I called Jessica. Did Nexora disclose Ryan's hiring to the board? How would they? He was hired under the radar, no announcement, no posting, just showed up one day with a desk and a company laptop. And his access to acquisition plans that's material insider information. Claire, what are you planning? I looked at my laptop screen, at Ryan's latest Instagram story, him at a club, bottle of champagne in hand. Caption reading, celebrating daddy's new deal. I'm planning to teach Nexora systems that when you fire someone for knowing too much, you better make sure their replacement doesn't know too little. That night, I sat in my apartment with my findings spread across my coffee table like battle plans. Ryan Callahan wasn't just entitled and reckless, he was a compliance nightmare waiting to explode. His father had handed him a position he couldn't handle, access he couldn't be trusted with, and power he didn't understand. All I had to do was light the fuse. My mom had been destroyed by a man in power who thought he was untouchable. She'd had no recourse, no leverage, no way to fight back. But times had changed, social media had changed, corporate accountability had changed, and most importantly, I had changed. I wasn't the scared little girl watching her mother cry in the dark. I was Claire Donovan, and I knew exactly how to turn privilege into poison. The coffee shop on Madison Street became my war room. Every morning, I'd claim the corner table with the good Wi-Fi and the view of Nexora's tower gleaming in the distance. Armed with my laptop and a carefully crafted LinkedIn profile that now listed me as an independent communications consultant, I began my reconnaissance. Hey Claire, saw you went independent. Good for you. The message came from Tom Wyatt, a data analyst at Nexora who'd always been friendly. I'd helped him write his presentation for the board last year, stayed late walking him through PowerPoint transitions when his hands shook from nerves. Thanks, Tom. It was time for a change. How are things at the office? Crazy as always, actually worse since you left. The new guy in StratDev is driving everyone insane. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. New guy. CEO's son. Dude thinks he owns the place. Well, I guess he kind of does, LOL. That must be awkward. You have no idea. Yesterday he told the entire analytics team our models were outdated because he read some article on LinkedIn about AI. He's been here 3 weeks. I screenshot the conversation, adding it to my growing folder labeled Insurance. Over the next few days, I carefully reached out to former colleagues, never directly asking about Ryan, but always steering conversations toward the changes at Nexora. People were surprisingly eager to talk. Getting fired had apparently earned me a strange sort of credibility I was safe to vent to now, no longer part of the machine. Sarah from accounting. He submitted an expense report for a $3,000 dinner, called it client development. The clients were his frat brothers. Marcus from security. Kid keeps forgetting his key card, demands I let him in anyway, says, "Don't you know who I am?" at least once a week. Amy, my former intern. He asked me to get his dry cleaning. When I said that wasn't my job, He said I needed to learn how corporate hierarchies work. Each message was carefully documented, time-stamped, saved in multiple locations. But I needed more than office gossip. I needed something explosive. That's when I found the video. It was buried in the Instagram stories of someone named Blake Harrison, whose bio read, entrepreneur, investor, living my best life. Ryan was tagged in it from a party 2 weeks ago. In the background, while Blake filmed himself doing shots, Ryan was clearly visible talking to a young woman. The audio was partially drowned out by music, but I could make out fragments. Insider information is where the real money. My dad doesn't even know I look at the reports. Japanese acquisition next month. I downloaded the video immediately, my heart racing. This was it, securities fraud, recorded and posted on social media for anyone to see. But I needed more context, more evidence that this wasn't just drunken boasting. I created a fake Instagram account, Madison Walsh, a freelance PR consultant with stolen photos from a stock photography site. Madison was blonde, pretty, and interested in networking with innovative leaders. Within hours of following Ryan, he'd followed back and sent a DM. Hey beautiful, don't think we've met. You in Ridgeport. My skin crawled, but I responded, yes, new to the city, trying to connect with people in tech. You work at Nexora, right? Impressive. The messages flowed freely after that. Ryan was eager to impress Madison, sending voice messages about his important role and how he was transforming the company's strategic direction. In one particularly damning message, he sent a photo of himself at his desk with confidential documents clearly visible on his screen, bragging about the big moves he was planning. Friday afternoon. I hit gold. There's a networking event tonight at the Loft. Ryan messaged Madison. You should come. I'll be there with some people from the office. Would love to introduce you to everyone. I stared at the message for a long moment. Meeting him in person was risky, but the opportunity to gather real-time intelligence was too valuable to pass up. Besides, he'd never seen Claire Donovan. I was just another fired employee beneath his notice. That evening, I transformed myself. Gone were my usual corporate clothes, replaced with a black dress I'd bought years ago for a wedding. I styled my hair differently, applied makeup with a heavier hand than usual. Looking in the mirror, I saw Madison Walsh, not Claire Donovan. The Loft was everything I expected: exposed brick, Edison bulbs, overpriced cocktails, and tech bros discussing their disruptive innovations. Ryan held court near the bar, surrounded by a mix of Nexora employees I recognized and strangers. I positioned myself within earshot, ordering a martini I had no intention of drinking. The Japanese are desperate to sell, Ryan was saying, his voice carrying over the music. Dad thinks we're offering 30 mil, but I've seen the real numbers. We could get them for 25, easy. Someone laughed nervously. Should you be talking about this here? Relax. Ryan waved his hand dismissively. It's Friday night. Besides, who's going to say anything? Everyone here knows who my father is. I recorded everything on my phone, the device hidden in my purse, the microphone just barely picking up his voice. For 20 minutes, Ryan Callahan systematically violated every SEC regulation about material non-public information, confident in his immunity. When he finally noticed Madison at the bar, his eyes lit up with predatory interest. I smiled, raised my glass slightly, then turned and walked out. Back in my apartment, I uploaded everything to 3 different cloud services: the videos, the messages, the screenshots, a complete portrait of corporate malfeasance and personal misconduct. Sunday night, I sat with my laptop, creating a comprehensive document that laid out everything clearly, professionally, with timestamps and evidence markers. No emotion, no vendetta, just facts that would make any compliance officer break into a cold sweat. The document was titled simply, Regulatory Concerns Regarding Nexora Systems. Tomorrow would be Monday. 1 week since my termination. Time to return the favor. Monday morning arrived with unexpected rain, the kind that turns Ridgeport streets into rivers of umbrellas and frustration. I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, watching the clock tick toward 9 a.m. The email was drafted, sitting in my outbox like a loaded weapon. But first, I had one more card to play. The networking event had given me something I hadn't expected: Ryan's personal cell number. He'd given it to one of the women there, loudly enough for half the bar to hear. "Text me," he'd said with that practiced smile. "I'll show you what real power looks like." I created a new Google Voice number and sent him a text. "Hey Ryan, this is Madison from Friday night. You mentioned something about the Japanese deal. I have connections in Tokyo who might be interested. Coffee." His response was immediate. "Beautiful and connected, I'm in. Starbucks on 5th Street noon." Perfect. I arrived early, choosing a table with clear sightlines to the door. I'd dressed carefully, professional, but forgettable. My hair pulled back, glasses I didn't need. A small digital recorder sat in my pocket, and my phone was positioned to capture video from my purse. Ryan walked in 5 minutes late, his confidence filling the room like cologne. He spotted me immediately, his face shifting from anticipation to confusion. "Madison." "Hi, Ryan," I said, my voice steady. "Actually, my name is Claire Donovan. I used to work at Nixora." The transformation was instant, his charm evaporated, replaced by suspicion. "What is this?" "This is a conversation. Sit down." "I don't think so." He turned to leave. "The SEC might be interested in your thoughts on the Yamamoto Corp acquisition." He froze. Slowly, he turned back and sat down, his jaw clenched. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really, because you seemed pretty knowledgeable about it on Friday. 30 million initial offer, but you think 25 would work." I pulled out my phone, showed him a screenshot of his Instagram story, the one where confidential documents were visible on his screen. "Or maybe we should talk about the insider information you've been sharing at parties." His face had gone pale. "You recorded me." "You recorded yourself. Ryan, I just saved the evidence." "What do you want, money?" The assumption that everyone was as transactional as him almost made me laugh. "I want you to understand something. Your father's company fired me last Monday for a fabricated reason. It was unfair, unethical, and probably illegal. But I'm not here about that." "Then what?" I leaned forward. "I'm here because you're dangerous. Ryan. Not in the way you think, not powerful, dangerous. You're reckless. You have access to information that affects thousands of people's jobs, millions in investments, and you treat it like gossip to impress girls at bars. You can't prove anything. I have videos, Ryan, screenshots. Your Instagram alone is a compliance nightmare. That photo of you doing cocaine at the Meridian Club, the one you thought you deleted, the internet never forgets." His hands were shaking now. "What are you going to do?" "That depends on you. You see, I've prepared a comprehensive report documenting everything, every violation, every leaked piece of information, every SEC regulation you've broken. It's ready to go to the board, the SEC, and if necessary, the Wall Street Journal." "You're blackmailing me." "No. Blackmail would be if I asked you for something in return for my silence. I'm not asking for anything. I'm telling you what's going to happen." I stood up. "You're going to resign from Nixora. Today. You'll tell your father that the corporate world isn't for you, that you want to pursue other interests. Maybe go back to Europe. Find yourself again. He'll never accept that. Then you'll have to convince him. Because if you don't, if you're still employed at Nixora by Friday, everything goes public. Your father won't be able to protect you from federal investigators." Ryan's face contorted with rage. "You bitter bitch! You think ruining my life will make yours better?" "My life." I laughed, genuine this time. "Ryan, you don't even know who I am. I'm one of dozens of people your father's company has discarded. But unlike the others, I'm not going quietly. And you're just collateral damage." I gathered my things, leaving him sitting there, his entitled world cracking around him. "This is extortion," he called after me. "I'll call the police." I turned back. "Go ahead, explain to them about the insider trading first." Outside, the rain had stopped. I walked to my car, my hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Part 1 was complete. Ryan would either comply or panic, and either reaction would serve my purpose. That afternoon, I made one more move. Using an anonymous email service, I sent a single message to David Brenner, the head of internal audit at Nixora. You might want to review the social media activity of recent strategic hires. Particularly interesting Instagram user, Ryan calls the shots. Friday, October 13th. The Loft. 10:47 p.m. Due diligence is such an important part of SOX compliance, don't you think? No threats, no demands, just a breadcrumb trail that any competent auditor would have to follow. By evening, my phone was buzzing with messages from former colleagues. Did you hear? Something big is happening. Emergency board meeting called for tomorrow. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I opened a bottle of wine, a good one this time. Not the stress-drinking, cheap stuff from last week, and sat by my window watching the city lights. Ryan Callahan thought his name protected him, that his father's position made him untouchable. But he'd learned what I'd learned a week ago in corporate America. Everyone is expendable. The only difference is how much damage you can do on your way out. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. This is Richard Callahan. I don't know who you are or what you think you're doing, but I deleted it without listening to the rest. Richard Callahan, CEO of Nixora Systems, had just acknowledged he knew who I was. That was all the confirmation I needed. The game was in motion. Tuesday morning, I woke to my phone vibrating against the nightstand. 17 missed calls, 43 text messages. My former colleagues were losing their minds. Claire, did you see the news? Internal audit is crawling all over the building. They locked down the executive floor. I made coffee and opened my laptop, checking the local business news. Nothing yet. But the corporate gossip mill was churning at full speed. On LinkedIn, several Nixora employees had posted vague messages about challenging times and standing together as a team. At 10 a.m., I executed Phase 2. The package I'd assembled was pristine, a USB drive containing everything, wrapped in a single sheet of paper that read, "In the interest of corporate transparency and shareholder protection." No signature, no return address. I'd paid cash at a FedEx store across town, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap like some spy movie cliché. The recipient, Jennifer Martinez, senior investigative reporter at the Ridgeport Tribune, known for her corporate corruption exposés. The second package went to the SEC's whistleblower office. Anonymous submission, untraceable email, VPN routing through 3 countries. They'd get the social media evidence, the recordings, the documents, everything except my name. By noon, I was sitting in the same coffee shop on Madison Street when Amy called. Claire, oh my God, where are you? Home. Why? Ryan Callahan just got escorted out by security. Like, actually escorted. They wouldn't even let him go back to his desk. I kept my voice neutral. What happened? Nobody knows for sure, but there are lawyers everywhere, not our legal team outside lawyers. They've been in the boardroom since 7 this morning. And Ethan? She paused, lowering her voice. Ethan's been called in 3 times. He looks like he's going to throw up. Good. Let him sweat. Amy, be careful. Keep your head down. Are you okay, I mean, with everything that happened to you last week? I'm fine. Sometimes getting fired is a blessing. After hanging up, I opened Twitter. Jennifer Martinez had just posted, "Breaking source alleges major compliance violations at Ridgeport tech firm. Securities fraud insider trading story. Developing." The first domino had fallen. By 3 p.m., the Ridgeport Tribune's website had the headline, "Exclusive CEO's son caught sharing insider information on social media." The article was beautiful in its precision. Jennifer had done her homework, verifying the Instagram posts, confirming Ryan's identity, even getting a quote from a securities law expert about the severity of the violations. She'd pixelated some faces but left Ryan clearly visible. His bourbon-flushed face caught mid-boast about making millions off these suckers. My phone rang. Ethan Hale. I let it ring. He called 4 more times, then sent a text. Claire, we need to talk. This is serious. I texted back. Like my termination was serious, pass. You don't understand what you've done. I documented misconduct and reported it through appropriate channels. Isn't that what a responsible communications professional does? No response. At 5 p.m., Nixora released a statement. We are aware of allegations regarding a recent employee and are conducting a thorough internal investigation. Nixora Systems takes compliance seriously and will act decisively to protect shareholder interests. A recent employee, they couldn't even say his name. Jessica called. You did it, didn't you? Did what? Claire. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've been job hunting all week. She laughed. Right. Job hunting. Well, your job hunting just triggered a complete audit of Nixora's hiring practices. My friend in HR says they're reviewing every hire from the last 2 years, looking for unreported nepotism. Wednesday brought the storm. The SEC announced a formal investigation. Trading in Nixora stock was halted for 2 hours. When it resumed, the price had dropped 12%. The Wall Street Journal picked up the story. CNN Business ran a segment about nepotism in tech companies. And then, the photo that broke everything wide open. Someone I genuinely don't know who leaked a picture from the previous Friday's board meeting. Ryan was there, sitting at the executive table, confidential documents spread in front of him, clearly participating in discussions he had no clearance for. The timestamp showed this was after his first Instagram post about insider information. The board had known. They'd let him sit in those meetings, knowing he was a risk. Thursday morning, Richard Callahan resigned as CEO to focus on personal matters and allow the company to move forward. Thursday afternoon, Ethan Hale was terminated as part of the restructuring of leadership to ensure proper oversight and compliance. I sat in my apartment, watching the news coverage, feeling empty. Not satisfied, not vindicated, just empty. The anger that had fueled me for 2 weeks was dissipating, leaving behind a hollow space. My mom called. Honey, I just saw the news about your old company. Isn't that where you worked? Yeah, Mom. Such a shame. But you know what, you're better off away from all that drama. If only she knew. That night, I got one last message, another unknown number. But this time, I recognized the voice on the voicemail. Ms. Donovan, this is Ryan Callahan. I know it was you. I don't know how you did it, but I know. You destroyed my life, my father's career, everything. I hope you're satisfied. I hope it was worth it, because you're just as much a nobody now as you were before. You think you won. You're still unemployed, still irrelevant, still... I deleted it before he finished. He was wrong about one thing. I wasn't a nobody. I was Claire Donovan, daughter of Margaret Donovan, and we didn't break. We broke back. Friday morning arrived with an almost surreal calm. The storm had passed, leaving devastation in its wake. I dressed carefully, not for any meeting or event, but for myself. Dark jeans, a simple white shirt, my most comfortable boots. Today was about closure. The financial district was buzzing with the aftermath. I could hear fragments of conversation as I walked past the coffee shops and breakfast spots where Nixora employees usually gathered. Can you believe it? The whole executive team. My 401k is screwed. They're saying criminal charges might be filed. I bought a coffee from my usual spot, the barista recognizing me with a sympathetic smile. Rough week for your old company. Seems like it. I walked slowly toward the Nixora building. No real plan in mind. I just needed to see it. As I approached, I noticed the unusual activity news vans parked outside, security guards turning away anyone without proper ID, employees leaving with cardboard boxes. And then I saw him. Ryan Callahan was standing by a black town car, wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky. His father stood beside him, both men looking diminished somehow, their usual commanding presence replaced by something hollow. They were surrounded by what looked like lawyers, all dark suits and tense faces. As they prepared to get in the car, Ryan's eyes swept the street and landed on me. For a moment, we just stared at each other across the distance. I expected rage, maybe some dramatic confrontation. Instead, he just looked lost. Like a child who'd finally been told no and didn't know how to process it. His father followed his gaze and saw me. Richard Callahan, former CEO, the man whose voicemail I'd deleted without listening to completely. He said something to Ryan, then started walking toward me. My instinct was to leave, but I stood my ground. This was my sidewalk too. Ms. Donovan, he said when he reached me. Up close, I could see the exhaustion in his face, the gray stubble he hadn't bothered to shave. Mr. Callahan, you're the one who was terminated last week. Communications department. It wasn't a question. That's right. He studied me for a long moment. My son made mistakes. Serious ones. But what I did was report unethical and illegal behavior through appropriate channels, something your company should have done the moment he was hired without proper disclosure. You destroyed a company, hundreds of people's jobs. No, I interrupted, my voice firm. Your son destroyed a company. Your decision to hire him without oversight destroyed a company. Your culture of protecting those in power while crushing anyone who questioned it destroyed a company. I just pulled back the curtain. He wanted to argue, I could see it in his face. But behind him, one of the lawyers was gesturing urgently. We're not done, he said quietly. Yes, Mr. Callahan, we are. You fired me. Remember, I don't work for you anymore. I walked away, leaving him standing there. As I passed the town car, Ryan lowered his window. I hope you're happy, he called out, his voice bitter. I stopped, turned back. Happy no, but I'm free. Can you say the same? The window rolled back up, and the town car pulled away, taking the Callahans out of Ridgeport's financial district, probably forever. I found myself back at the coffee shop on Madison Street, my unofficial office for the past 2 weeks. My laptop was open, showing new LinkedIn messages recruiters, suddenly very interested in my expertise in corporate communications and crisis management. One message stood out from Jennifer Martinez at the Tribune. Incredible work. If you ever want to talk on the record, or if you're interested in a career change, I know people who could use someone with your investigative skills. I smiled at that. Investigative skills. Is that what we were calling revenge? Now Amy texted me. Emergency all hands just ended. New interim CEO. They're bringing in an entire new executive team. And Claire. They announced new whistleblower protections and an anonymous ethics hotline. You did this. I didn't respond. What could I say that it wasn't about making things better for them, that it was about something much more personal, much more primitive than corporate reform? As the afternoon wore on, I watched the Nexora building from my window seat, watched employees leaving early, some crying, others celebrating in that guilty way people do when they survive a disaster. The security guard, Paul, who'd escorted me out just 11 days ago, was helping someone carry boxes to their car. The corporate machine grinding on, indifferent to the lives it had destroyed this week. My phone buzzed with a call from Mom. Hi, honey. Just wanted to check in. How's the job search going? Actually, I have some promising leads. Oh, that's wonderful. I knew you'd bounce back. You're so strong. Claire, stronger than I ever was. Mom, you're the strongest person I know. Oh, honey. Her voice caught slightly. You know, I've been thinking about what happened to me all those years ago. At Hartman. I always wondered what would have happened if I'd fought back. Mom. No, let me say this. I was so scared, so worried about providing for you that I just took it. Let them push me out. Let them win. But you? When I saw that news about Nexora, about that CEO and his son, I thought good. Good that someone finally showed these men they can't just do whatever they want. She didn't know it was me. She didn't need to. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. Now go get that new job. Show them what you're worth. After we hung up, I sat in the fading afternoon light, watching the city transform into its evening configuration. The Nexora building's lights were coming on, floor by floor, though fewer than usual. The company would survive. Probably. New leadership, new policies, new promises to do better. The stock would recover. The employees would adapt. But Ryan Callahan would never work in finance again. Richard Callahan's reputation was destroyed. And Ethan Hale, I'd heard through the grapevine, he was already being investigated for his role in covering up Ryan's hiring. Was I satisfied? Ryan had asked if I was happy. His father had implied I should feel guilty. But sitting there, I felt neither satisfaction nor guilt, just a sense of completion. A debt paid. The barista approached my table. We're closing soon, but you can stay to finish your coffee. Thanks, but I'm done here. And I was. Done with this coffee shop. Done with watching that building. Done with Nexora Systems. I closed my laptop, gathered my things, and walked out into the evening air. The city was alive around me, people heading to happy hour, going home to families, living their lives unaware of the small war that had just been fought and won. My phone had 3 missed calls from unknown numbers, probably reporters or lawyers or other remnants of the week's chaos. I deleted them without listening. That chapter was over. Time to write a new one. The highway stretched out before me, Ridgeport shrinking in my rearview mirror until the Nexora building was just another piece of the skyline. I'd packed my apartment in 2 days, selling most of my furniture, keeping only what fit in my car. The lease had been month to month anyway, one of those lucky accidents that now felt like fate. I wasn't running. This wasn't escape. This was choice. My phone, mounted on the dashboard, showed 3 job offers: San Francisco, Austin. And surprisingly, Jennifer Martinez had made good on her hint, connecting me with an investigative journalism outfit in Chicago. Each opportunity was better than anything I'd had at Nexora. Funny how destroying a company's executive team had become the best career move I'd ever made. But I wasn't ready to decide yet. For now, I just drove. The call from Jessica came as I was passing through some forgettable town 2 hours from Ridgeport. You need to hear this, she said without preamble. Ethan Hale was arrested this morning. I pulled over at the next rest stop. What? Turns out he'd been taking kickbacks from vendors for years. The audit uncovered everything. Claire, he was the one who approved Ryan's hiring without disclosure. Richard Callahan paid him $50,000 to fast-track it and keep it quiet. I sat in my parked car, engine running, processing this final piece of the puzzle. Ethan hadn't just fired me to cover his ego, he'd fired me because I was getting too close to his corruption. My questioning his decisions had made him nervous. Claire, you still there? Yeah, I'm here. Where's here? Somewhere between who I was and who I'm becoming. Jessica laughed. Very philosophical. Well, wherever you are, you should know you're kind of a legend now. The woman who took down Nexora's entire leadership in 5 days. I didn't take down anyone. They took down themselves. Sure, keep telling yourself that. After we hung up, I sat in that rest stop parking lot, watching families on road trips, truckers grabbing coffee, life moving forward in its ordinary way. None of them knew who I was or what I'd done. I was anonymous again, and it felt like freedom. My phone buzzed with a text from Amy. They offered me your old position, promoted me to senior communications specialist. I wanted you to know. It should have been yours to keep. I texted back, it's yours now, make it count. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, I thought about the week that had passed, Monday to Friday. 5 days that felt like 5 years. I'd walked into Monday a victim, crushed and humiliated. I was driving into Friday as something else entirely. Not a victor that implied I'd won something worth having. Not a survivor that suggested mere endurance. I was an architect of consequences. Ryan Callahan had thought his name made him untouchable. His father had believed his power was absolute. Ethan had assumed his small corruptions would never matter. They'd all operated in a system that protected them, enabled them, elevated them beyond their worth. But systems are just people agreeing to rules. And when you know which rules they're breaking, which secrets they're keeping, which lies they're living well, then you can make the whole thing collapse with just the right pressure at just the right point. My mother had never had that chance. She'd been crushed by a system she couldn't fight. In an era before social media, before the SEC's whistleblower programs, before the world learned to care about corporate accountability, she'd had to swallow her rage, bury her dignity, and move on. But I was my mother's daughter, living in my mother's future. And in this future, we had tools she'd never dreamed of. I pulled back onto the highway as darkness fell completely. The road ahead was black except for my headlights cutting through the night. I didn't know where I'd stop, which job I'd take, what my life would look like a month from now. But I knew this. They'd fired me on Monday morning, thinking I was disposable, forgettable, just another casualty of corporate politics. By Friday evening, their entire world had imploded. The CEO was gone, his son was facing federal investigation, and my direct supervisor was in custody. And me, I was driving toward whatever came next. My mother's photo tucked into the sun visor above me, her younger face smiling down the picture from before Hartman and Associates, when she still believed the world was fair. It wasn't fair. It never had been. But sometimes, if you were smart enough, patient enough, and angry enough, you could make it just. The highway stretched on into the darkness. Behind me, Ridgeport burned with the aftermath of what I'd done. Ahead, the future waited, undefined and full of possibility. I pressed the accelerator a little harder, my car eating up the miles between my past and my future. In the rearview mirror, the last lights of my old life disappeared. Claire Donovan was gone. Whoever I became next, she'd know how to protect herself. She'd know how to fight back. She'd know that sometimes the best revenge isn't living well. It's making sure the people who wronged you can't wrong anyone else. The road curved ahead, leading somewhere new. I followed it, finally free. Thank you so much for listening to this story of corporate revenge and justice. I'm curious, where are you listening to this story right now? Are you on your commute, relaxing at home, or perhaps taking a break at work? Drop a comment below and let me know. If you enjoyed Claire's journey and want to hear more stories like this, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback helps me know what kinds of stories resonate with you. Until next time. Remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be broken.